Thank you all for being here. Isn't it wild? Not even a year ago, you appeared on the first panel at Celebration, some of you, and couldn't say a word about the story or the show. And now, is this the first time you've all been together since you filmed?
No, we did some press together, but it is the first time actually having Vivien, because we could never talk about her. So it's amazing having Vivien.
Well, and Vivien, I'd love to, of course, when we learned about Obi-Wan Kenobi, we were all surprised when Leia popped up. And you, how is it for you? Like this past year, you've actually been able to talk about it.
I mean, it's been awesome, especially doing these conventions. It's been so cool. I think it was so relieving not to have to keep it such a big secret anymore. It was secret about the secret. But yeah, it's so relieving, so exciting to finally get to talk about it, to finally get to see all these people, in person, be able to travel to see all these different conventions. It's been incredible.
Aw, that's awesome. And Ewan and Hayden, same for you, because, at first at Celebration, it was before we'd all seen the first episode, and secrets upon secrets. So can you talk about what it's been like since you've wrapped and now that everyone's seen it and you can talk about it and share? Hayden, you want to kick it off?
It's just been incredible. The reception that you guys have given the show. It's been such a highlight for me getting to come back to Star Wars and to get to work with Ewan again and with Deborah and with Vivien and everyone. I've just had a blast and to get to be here and see all of you guys and see all of the costumes and all of the sort of the love that you guys have for the franchise. It really means a lot to me. So thank you.
That does make me wonder, Ewan, have you seen any, what we call that look? Grizzled Tatooine Obi-Wans wandering around?
Yeah, there's a few blue tops out there. Blue Obi tops. Yeah, it's been great. It's been so great meeting you over the last couple of days, guys. It's just been absolutely fantastic to be here.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have no doubt cosplayers jump on that so quickly. I would like to go back to the beginning. Deborah, tell us about the genesis of the project and how we came to get to come back to this wonderful character.
Well, I was fortunate that, it was already in progress when I came onto it, and so, I inherited the project, obviously. And I think for me, it was, it's very hard not to love a project that has two of the most iconic characters in cinematic history. And it was just exciting to get to do something that was very character-based and to get to work with Ewan and Hayden and all this cast.
That's really cool. And also a quick shout out, because I noticed, recently in The Mandalorian, you appeared again as your X-Wing pilot.
That's Dave's fault.
That a lot of things are, so, And Indira, tell me how you came to join Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I got the invite to audition, and having seen Deborah's work on Mandalorian, I have to confess, I didn't know much about Star Wars.
No, it's good. It's so good. No, we're a welcoming space.
But actually, apart from playing it in the playground as a kid, all that. And then The Mandalorian completely sucked me in. And having seen Deborah's amazing work on it, and also my mate Pedro, having a little chat with him. Yeah, I had to drop that one. And he gave Deborah such an amazing review that I had to meet her. And just talking to her, Deborah cares so much about character work and relationship. And that's personally what I'm interested in. And I think that's why Obi's so strong, is because of the character work that we all got to do. That's how I came here.
Yeah.
And we're so glad you're part of the Star Wars. You're part of the Star Wars family now. You're in it. And I'm wondering, because everything is so secretive, how long was it, Indira, before you could tell anyone that you'd worked on a Star Wars series?
I think it was all right for me to say that I was actually in it, But it was when the trailers came out, and suddenly I'm this Imperial officer, and everyone's like, "Ooh, you're on the bad side." But and then that was when I had to sort of go, yeah. But I get to do both, so that was my privilege. That was tough to sort of not open my mouth about.
Yeah, no, I don't envy you all for the secrets you have to keep. I would not be.
I had it for years before because I knew that I was. It was years before we made the series that I had my first meetings with Lucasfilm, and that we decided that we were going to do it, and it was going to be a movie, and then it was going to be a TV show, and it was. But all the time on social media, you would just see all these fans speculating about whether it was going to happen or whether they were going to get someone else to play Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I'd have to go, "Oh, that really annoys me," and yet not being able to say. And then in every interview, since we finished the third one, I think in every interview, the last two questions were always, is there going to be another Trainspotting, and is there going to be another Star Wars? Are you going to do Star Wars again? It was always the last two sneaky questions when time was up. And I wasn't able to say. I always had to lie about it or tell a white lie about it or whatever, pretend it wasn't going to happen.
I think and now that I know that you're on to it is always the last sneaky questions. We do that on purpose.
Yes.
Yeah, and I thought it was a secret that we did that. Vivien, tell me how you came to join Obi-Wan. What was it like?
Well, it was a very, 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 very long audition process. I think it was about the course of almost a year that I was auditioning. And I did a lot of these dummy sides, which were sides for characters that already existed, but and had been filmed and released and stuff. But they just wanted to see how how I could deal with those scenes, and they would do different sides. At one point, there were code names for the code names, because there were code names, right? And then there were code names for the code names, so I couldn't even know the code names until my 7th audition or something. And then, and Deborah went undercover as well. Yeah.
I think I had an alias, yeah.
So it was a lot of secrets, and then finally they gave me the real sides that said Leia and Ben, I believe, and it was just incredible. And then Deborah called and she said, "We'd like to offer you the role of Leia," and it was just absolutely incredible. I had already met Ewan at that point. We had done a few chemistry reads, I think, and it was just so surreal. It kind of felt like time had stopped in that moment, and it just felt so big, and I was so happy. And then about another year later, here we are, and you guys have all seen it, and I get to see all of you that have seen it.
Well, I know we are very happy to have you as Leia. It was just so lovely to see you bring that character to the screen. And from your side of it, Deborah, I'm curious with that audition process, and of course the code names on the code names, the secrecy of that role. What was that like from your end?
It's obviously a pretty intense role to try to cast, especially with children. So I think not only was it Princess Leia, but it's also you've got Carrie Fisher. So you've at least two hugely iconic characters. You're trying to find the younger version. So the biggest thing we were really looking for was, someone who had the spirit. That wasn't going to try to copy or mimic Carrie, but was actually just going to kind of embody it. So I think really when it became clear is Ewan and I actually sat with Vivien in my office, and she has this crazy photographic memory so we didn't give her any sides. We gave it to her. She literally had it memorized within about 2 minutes, but just seeing these two work together was really what it was. Yeah, in that moment.
And Hayden, like you, and of course, you have a long history with Star Wars, and you get to come. Like, what a gift to get to see you come back as Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader. Can you talk about like getting that call and how it came to be?
Yeah, it was a surprise to get the call. I got a call from a friend of mine at Lucasfilm saying that Deborah wanted to get together and chat about this secret project. And so Deborah and I got together and sort of instantly hit it off, and I was just sort of so elated to get to come back to the franchise, and I of course had sort of heard whispers about this Obi-Wan project, and I knew Ewan was coming back to do it, and I was so happy about that, but to get to join you and be a part of this very special project just was really exciting, and to get to come back to the character and do a little bit more with Darth Vader was a thrill.
Well, and you mentioned coming back. You heard about the project. You know what Deborah was doing, and I imagine not just any Obi-Wan project would have, like, it had to be the right thing. So I'm curious, Ewan, what attracted you to Deb's idea and the idea for the story that was already in progress for the character?
The first discussions that we had way back when were about Obi-Wan being broken, being on Tatooine, having survived the Order 66 and the end of our episode 3. I just thought to take this character that we knew from Alec Guinness and from the work that I'd done through the prequels to as this able warrior, general, Jedi Knight, to take him into a broken place and to imagine what it might be like for somebody who's lost so many of his the people he loves, and is estranged from the rest, the people who survived. He can no longer contact, he can't get in touch with Yoda, he can't reach out to anybody. He's also carrying the guilt and the sort of shame of having lost his Padawan, having lost his brother, and feeling so shamed and guilt-ridden about that, feeling like it was his fault. I thought that would just be interesting to start there, and I didn't really know what the story would be, but that was the starting place, wasn't it? And it went through did go through different iterations. It was a story about Obi-Wan and Luke for a while, and then I can't remember exactly when that changed. That changed before Deb came onto it, but it was a great change. I'm so proud that it's a story about Obi-Wan and Leia.
Well, yeah, and it was that beautiful moment when we meet Leia. It's like, of course, that's like the only reason Obi-Wan would leave Luke on Tatooine. Yeah. And then it just breaks you did a lot of breaking hearts, but in a good way with this show, Deborah. And can you talk about that kind of change, like Leia as the impetus for Obi-Wan to kind of go back out into the world?
That happened before me, so there was a considerable amount of development. But for me, it was actually one of the things that I found really attractive about the project, and it's very hard to justify why he would leave. And so really, like what you're saying is, we needed an incredibly strong reason. And I think the other thing that we really, Vivien and I both really liked about the project was we liked getting to sort of shine a light on Princess Leia, and acknowledge that she was half of it as well.
Yeah.
Yes. And of course, while we meet some familiar characters, Obi-Wan does encounter some new allies along the way, like Tala and Indira. I'm curious about Tala, like what drew you to that role?
I think it's fantastic to play a duality. And I really love the fact that I feel she's so human. She started from a place of believing in something, the Empire, with such strength, and it let her down. And I think it takes massive courage to turn the other way and live this double life in order to help the Jedi, really, and to make good all the bad that she has witnessed, all the bad that she herself has done. And And I love her courage and her strength and her fragility, because I think she is frightened. And personally, I love being able to play two things at the same time. You know, feeling something, feeling the fear, and having to cover it. I love that. Yeah.
And I feel like with Tala, even I was not sure for a little while, like, which side is she on? I don't know.
Yeah, also I get to work with Ewan and Vivien, you know. That's fantastic, you know, and she gets some great relationships with them. And I think I love the fact that Tala she really admires Obi, but sees him broken and wants to give him his mojo back in a way, you know.
When you mentioned, you know, working with Vivien.
Saves him a couple of times.
Yeah.
A couple.
Saves his life a couple of times.
Yeah.
No?
I mean, he definitely
totally,
owes you.
Sacrifices herself. She's very, very, very funny to work with. We had such a laugh. She got me in such trouble all the time for giggling and stuff. We had to stop many takes for laughing.
There was one particular line I was reminding Ewan before, where we were all we were in that big cave. What was it called?
A cave.
The cave. And everything was going wrong. And I think it might have been cut, this line, but I had a line which I had to run in and say, there's half a battalion out there. And I was saying the line right, but it just, in my head, it sounded like I was saying, we've got to sort this out. There's half an Italian out there. And we just could not keep a straight face. And Deborah got a bit annoyed.
A new Star Wars character, the half an Italian.
I mean, have you heard some of the names in Star Wars that I would believe that as a name? That's going to be an action figure next year. I think you broke Ewan and Indira.
It was so fun, though. I mean, it was a new relationship, you know, and so it was fun to create that. The beautiful thing was that there was old relationships, you know, in the series with characters we know and love, but also new ones, and that was great fun to create.
That's perfect, because I would love to talk about those new relationships, especially, you know, between Obi-Wan and young Leia.
Yeah.
Because what a special thing to get to see between the two of you. And I'd be, Vivien, I'd love to hear from you about working with Ewan and also, like, you know, kind of defining Leia's relationship with Obi-Wan at that stage.
I mean, obviously Ewan is incredible. He's an incredible human being. And
I asked her to say that before we came on.
And working with him was just amazing. We had so many scenes together. I think we had a lot of fun.
We did.
I remember the scene where I was in the coat. I was inside the Imperial officer's coat, and I kept like poking my head out to look around at the set, and he kept like trying to push me back in. And it was really funny. I kept just saying, like, how is anyone believing that this random lump inside this guy's coat is just normal? How is this happening? But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think with Leia and Obi-Wan, she says a few times, she doesn't know much about him. He just kind of shows up and takes her. And like, that's exactly what the kidnappers did too. So like, she doesn't really know that she can trust him. And when she sees that he's wanted and stuff, that's a red flag. So, so she's a little bit, you know, like, okay, that's not good. And so she runs away from him. And then I think the turning point is when he catches her with the Force. She starts to believe, like, oh, got it. So, oh, I'm not dead. So I think that's kind of the turning point where she starts to believe, like, okay, this guy is trying to help me, and even though he looks kind of old and beat up, he can still apparently have a few tricks up his sleeve. So, yeah, I think that was really the turning point.
It's amazing what they can do with makeup these days, you know. Amazing.
Sorry, I just need a moment. And Ewan, you got to the seminal character in Star Wars, and of course we see Leia come back to Obi-Wan for help in A New Hope, and you got to kind of define the beginning of that.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was beautiful. I mean, the relationship, it was so brilliantly written that she has an effect on him, that he's able to go back to Tatooine at the end and sort of let go of the reins with Luke, that she teaches him that he needs to allow, he learns how to be a dad, I suppose, with her. Because the fun stuff about the script was that he wasn't very good at it at the beginning, He doesn't really know how to be with a kid at the beginning, but by the end of it, they've got such a great rapport. And you just played it so beautifully. You managed to make the character your own, and at the same time, it was Leia that we know.
Keep talking.
There were such links to there were such links to Carrie Fisher, and it was so beautiful to see those and feel that. You did such a great job. It was brilliant.
Well, speaking of Leia, it was also lovely to see, her relationship with Tala, and you can easily see how Leia would carry that forward with her, right, in her heart, and as she, grows to lead a rebellion. So Indira, you talked a little about working with Vivien, but what about those, that relationship between your characters where Tala was not quite a mentor, but you can definitely see.
Yeah, I think Tala sort of spots Leia's potential as a rebel leader. As soon as they meet, in fact, and we discover something literally 10 minutes ago in the green room, where we realized that in that very first scene, Tala says she's reassuring Leia about Ned B, and she says, "Oh, don't worry about it. He doesn't speak, but actions speak louder than words." And then, of course, Leia goes on to think that maybe I will get a blaster later on in life.
When she is at the end scene where I'm talking to Bale and I say, I think I want to change a few things, and he goes, well, let's change them together then. I think that's really her saying, I'm not just going to sit around on the Senate and say things that may or may not happen. I'm going to take action for myself and be a leader. And that's what she not only in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, but evolved into throughout the next 6 movies in the timeline.
Yeah, I'd like to think that Tala has some kind of an influence on her.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and Deb, for you, of course, Leia was already part of the story, but as the story went on, and we all know where Leia ends up, how did that influence, as you were on the set, as you worked with them, Leia's role and knowing where she goes? How did you build the relationships from backwards, I guess, kind of?
That was obviously one of the trickiest parts, was trying to thread the needle at the end, and obviously, we were, going through all the canon pretty closely to figure out how we could sort of make it make sense for everyone and the characters. So I think that final scene for us was really pivotal when they say goodbye, and you have Ewan saying, we have to keep this quiet, but if you ever need me and whatnot. So it was very nice to kind of bring it all around, but it definitely was the biggest challenge of this project, is in between 2 trilogies and trying to link with the canon.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it's threading the needle. And a long-time relationship that, of course, was lovely and heartbreaking to see more of in the series was between Ewan and Hayden, between Obi-Wan and Anakin. So Hayden, I want to talk about coming back. It's been some things have happened to Anakin since the last time you played the character. He's been going. He has some ambitions. He's changed a little. So can you talk about coming back to that role and then getting to encounter Vader encountering Obi-Wan and what that was like to explore?
Yeah, well, just coming back to the character and getting to continue with the Darth Vader character. I mean, we speak about them separately, but Vader is Anakin. It's just an evolution of the character, and so to get to explore that was really fulfilling. But there are kind of a couple of key scenes that I really got to participate in, and it's our flashback scene where we're doing our training, and that was just so much fun. And then of course our confrontation at the end, where he cracks the mask, and you know, it was just a really rewarding experience. And you know, as an actor, you play so much off of the person that you're working with, and you know what you brought to those scenes, Ewan, was just incredible. And to follow Deborah's lead, you know, I thought it was just sort of pitch perfect, all of your direction, and I honestly I couldn't have dreamed it up any better. It was amazing.
Well, and funny that you should mention the flashback scene, because we have a clip of that scene that we would love to watch. We can all experience emotions together. It'll be great.
There's no way out, Master. Admit you are beaten.
Now tell me, that was quite a bit of fancy lightsabering. That's the official, it's a verb now. Ewan, what was it like training for that scene?
The lightsaber training for the prequels was, you know, one of the most exciting parts of the whole experience was learning those fights. The big fight at the end of episode 1 with Liam and Rey was like mind-bending to learn, and it was so satisfying to do. And then Hayden and I, through episode 2 and 3, it was just an amazing experience working with the Fight Boys there, Nick Gillard on the prequels, and it was exciting to go to the fight gym to learn the fights, and then as we got them into our bones or under our skin, you know, they become faster and a bit more frenetic and fun, you know. And to step back into that again now, like 20 years later, however many years later, was just extraordinary. I mean, and Jojo, our fight coordinator on this series, took the work that we'd done in those films, and he was so clever, like such a thoughtful man, and he designed our fights. Well, for Obi-Wan, you know, to begin with, it was hand-to-hand stuff, and he's reluctant to. He can't use his lightsaber yet. He's reluctant to. So all of it was very thoughtfully designed, and then to go back to to go back to this flashback was just. It was the first thing we'd shot together, I think, if I'm right in saying, on the series.
Yeah. And
so we walked out on set in our prequel look, you know, and you could just feel in the crew, everyone was like, it was really a wonderful moment, and everyone was so excited to see. I came on set and there was like, you know, there's a lot of people on a film set anyway, but I came on set one night and it was just like everyone was there, like hundreds of people standing behind the cameras, and I was like, what on earth is going on? And I looked, and Hayden's coming down the street, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. Everyone came. Everyone was there to see you. Everyone was so excited to have you back. It was great.
Yeah.
Woo!
It really was just the most fun you can imagine, and it was like time travel, you know, getting to do that flashback sequence and swing a lightsaber with you again, and
yeah.
It just kind of felt like old hat, you know, like we just picked up where we left off.
Yeah, that's great.
And if I could just add too, there's no stunt doubles. These guys did everything themselves, and throughout the show, I think Ewan did 99% of everything himself.
You did feel those 20 years in the, you know, it was a lot of, I mean, we had to put in probably a lot more effort, for me anyway, just in terms of getting fit, and again, because shooting the fights it's like a sort of boxing match. You get up to do a take, and it's full on, expellation of energy, and then cut, and then you have to do it again and again and all day long. So I knew that I couldn't rely on my youthful sort of laziness from the first 3. And but anyway, we did it well, didn't we? The fight boys were great, and girls were great, and we just had a great time. It was brilliant.
And that's awesome. And I know you're working and everything, and you rehearse, but is there that moment when you get on set that you have that just like that emotional, like, oh, like we're here again? Like
Big time, yeah. No, it was really a very special day, and you know, everyone from the crew came out to watch, so it really was this sort of communal feeling to the whole thing, and we just had a lot of fun, you know. We had enough practice swinging a lightsaber that we were just sort of able to enjoy it, and of course we want to do it all ourselves because you know it's to get to swing a lightsaber is a privilege, and so you want to do that yourself.
Awesome. I need to make that into a T-shirt. So it was lovely to revisit the flashback scene, but we also would like to look at some of each of your favorite scenes and moments from the series. So Deborah, let's start with yours, and they're going to throw it up on the screen behind us again.
Go now. I'll be right behind you. Get it, Aldron. Promise me. Promise me. I'll lead him away.
Remember the first time watching that, I feel like I didn't breathe, and that brought it all back, especially with the stage rumbling. Wow, what a way to bring the intimidation and fear that Vader brings with him to the screen, Deborah. Please tell me about bringing that to life.
I think, with this clip, one of the reasons I really love doing this scene is that it's the first time for these two characters being in the same physical proximity since the prequels. And so there's such a psychology and it's emotional, and also as a director, it's so great getting to build things like that where it's almost all emotion and visual. So it was incredibly fun to do. And then just for me, so much of what the series was about was leading to the final scene in 6 with the cracked mask. And so this is the beginning of that starting to come in, and then the dynamic between them. It was just really amazing to get to direct something like that, And also, I just loved kind of having Vader shred everybody, honestly. It's great.
Honestly, yes.
But that said, from this one, another one, we didn't have time for it, but another one of my favorite scenes that was very unexpected was at the end of episode 4. when these two hold hands. It's just the sweetest moment. It was so unexpected, and it was just so natural, and so that's probably my second favorite.
Yeah, that was definitely a crying moment, one of many. And Vivien, I'm curious for you, filming that, were you just like, that's Vader, he's here, like how did that feel?
Well, I actually didn't really get to see him because they kind of filmed it in parts since it was such a long scene. So like, most of my acting was just with Ewan and Indira. So I didn't really get to see much of it, but I did see like when I would be like at chairs before we were going into a scene, Darth Vader would just walk past me and I would be like, okay, there's Darth Vader just walking past my chair, so, okay, this is real.
That's your life now. Darth Vader just
Yep.
walks past sometimes.
Yep.
Amazing. Next up, Indira, let's take a look at one of your favorite scenes.
Help! Help! Somebody help!
I was told it cannot wait.
I'm sorry to intrude. I understand that you're leading the hunt for the network they call the Path.
Just speak.
I was stationed on Mapusa when the hunt began. Ranking officer.
Qualifications for discharge.
They're on Florum. The network runs out of the Sertar sector. They use the salvage business to launder goods, render new identities, and fly the Jedi out. I found evidence before the escape.
Impressive.
We need to direct all resources there immediately and take the network out at its root.
Unless, of course, you're lying.
I think this is the time, please shout out to Moses Ingram and her incredible performance as Riva. And that scene, you know, speaking to Tala's duality and having to walk a fine line, I was sweating on your behalf.
Oh, yeah, me too. And Moses, I bloody love Moses. She's such a great actress. And it was terrifying. I felt so thrilled to have a scene with Riva because she is the boss and she's an uber evil, I think. She's on your par, isn't she? Yeah, but I just, again, as I sort of said before, I just love that notion of someone kind of essentially putting their head in the lion's mouth. That's what she did there. Buying time. Poor little Leia's about to get her eyes pierced. Obi's got to get there in time, and so I've just got to buy some time. And yeah, she's BSing her way through that. Yeah, swan. She's a swan, paddling really hard. But I love doing that kind of thing, and it was so fun to work with Moses, because I think she's so great.
Yeah, yes, she is. Please, round of applause. And Deborah, I'd love to hear about, you know, Riva a little bit, and because, like Indira said, Riva is a little bit intense, and for good reason, but I'd love to hear about that character and bringing her into the series.
Yeah, it was an interesting character to build as well because, you know, we had such a long game trying to get to really what was going on with her. So it was interesting, and that was also quite a lengthy audition process trying to find the right, you know, actor for that. So I think we were very fortunate to find Moses because it was not easy to find someone who could hold her own against Vader.
Yeah, and she really did. She really did. Okay, up next, Vivien, we have one of your favorite moments.
What?
You knew her, my real mother, didn't you?
It was just a story.
The whole time I've known you, you've been hiding something. Lying to me.
Leia.
Are you my real father?
I wished I could say I was. But no, I'm not.
Sometimes I try to imagine what he was like.
I know that feeling. As Jedi, we're taken from our families when we're very young. I still have glimpses. Flashes, really. My mother's shawl. My father's hands. I remember a baby.
A baby?
Yes, I think I had a brother. I really don't remember him. I wished I did. Then I joined the Jedi and I got a new family, just like you.
Aw, that's yet another moment that got me right here. Vivien, what an incredible emotion in that scene, and it was just lovely. Can you talk about filming that day and getting to that place?
Well, it was kind of a weird little day because we were on the back lot, which was where they filmed a lot of like the desert stuff and like outside things that they couldn't really build sets for, kind of like that. And I think that day was when I really I felt the character. I felt Leia, and I understood her. I understood like how badly she wants to know. Like, not even because like she wants her own family, just because she wants to know. And I understand that feeling of like, I never like being in the dark. It's a really uncomfortable feeling, and you never know when you're gonna run into something. So I think her desperateness to know what Obi-Wan's hiding from her, and she's very intelligent, so she's picked up on the fact that it has something to do with her family. Like, she's heard him talk about it, and she's kind of seen it in the way he says things like that story about their character's mother, you know, that they're putting on for the stormtroopers, and the way she looks at him during that scene as well, she realizes that what he's been hiding has something to do with her family, and now she needs to know. She needs to know what he knows, because her whole life she's been trying to find her father and her mother, and understanding who they were and if they're still alive and what they're doing and all that kind of stuff. So I think this is just her really trying to dig deep into Obi-Wan and see if she can find what she wants to know. And I think it's just so sweet and such a really important moment to Leia's character and Leia's life.
And Ewan, you know, you talked about how at the beginning Obi-Wan was like, I don't know what to do with children. And you can see in that scene how far he's come and how he relates to Leia. And you really got to tap into like a fatherly side of Obi-Wan. You know, we got the brotherly side when he was training Anakin, but what was that like digging into that part of the character?
Yeah, I think there's an honesty between them that develops, you know, and they start speaking to each other, really speaking to each other. And he stops thinking of her as being a child he has to look after, because she's so capable, you know, and gets him out of quite a few scrapes, it seems. So they just speak to each other like two human beings, you know. And that was very fun to do. And I think as we shot these scenes somewhat in order, that just happened of its own accord, you know. But it's really amazing watching you up there in this scene, because it's really like proper good acting. It's really good.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And you are right. Leia, between Vivien and Indira, with Leia and Tala, they do save Obi-Wan's hide more than a few times. Hayden, I think we have one of your favorite moments up next.
Anakin's gone. I am what remains. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Anakin. For all of it. I am not your failure, Obi-Wan. You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did. The same way, I will destroy you. Then my friend is truly dead. Goodbye, Darth. Obi-Wan!
What to even say? Y'all really picked some lighthearted moments there for your favorites. That moment, that scene is so powerful. We really see so much of. Oh, there you go. Okay, I was like, did I break something with my? We see so much of the duality you mentioned, right? It's not Anakin and then Vader. They are one. So please tell me about bringing so much to that scene.
Yeah, I mean, I think just within the context of the saga, it's just like a great bit of Star Wars, and a really important scene, not just to like the tragedy of the character of Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader, but the tragedy of the relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan, and you know, Deborah, I can't thank you enough. You know, the way it was scripted, the way the whole thing sort of came together on the day, and so much of why that scene works is because of Ewan's performance and the heartbreak that you experience. But yeah. And you do, you sort of get to understand the duality a little bit better, and that sort of struggle of identity. Yeah, so just, you know, very, very proud of that scene.
There was something about the scene that surprised us both when we shot it, about how emotional it became. It didn't necessarily feel that way on the page, and it was something to do with us, you know, that we met each other a long time ago in Australia and doing episode 2, and you know, you were a young actor.
There's history there.
Yeah, so and then we've been, and our lives have happened between then and now, and there was something about the experience of working together again, because it's just like, we just love each other, you know, and we hadn't seen each other for such a long time, and so in the moment of shooting it, all of that sort of was alive in the scene, you know, and that's beautiful when that happens in acting, isn't it? It's such a wonderful experience, and certainly I think that's what it feels like up there.
Yeah, absolutely came through, right? Right, yes. And finally, Ewan, we have one of your favorite moments as well. So let's see if this one will also break our hearts.
So what'll you do now?
I don't know. What do you think I should do?
I think you should sleep.
I think you're right. Leia. When I said before that I didn't know your parents, Princess Leia Organa, you are wise, discerning, kind-hearted. These are qualities that came from your mother. But you're also passionate and fearless, forthright. And these are gifts from your father. Both were exceptional people who bore an exceptional daughter. I wish I could tell you more.
It's okay. You don't have to. Thank you. Will I ever see you again?
Maybe. Someday. If you ever need help from a tired old man. But we must be careful. No one must know, or it could endanger us both.
Goodbye, Obi-Wan.
Goodbye, Princess. May the Force be with you.
So Ewan, tell us, we followed Obi-Wan on that journey, and now he's come to a point where he's as honest as he could be, right, with Leia then. So tell us about getting him there, and then what Obi-Wan took back with him from that interaction to Tatooine.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I mean, firstly, I just remember when I first saw it, I came down to the studio and met with Deb, and I watched the first 3 episodes when they were ready for me to see. And then when I came back to watch the second block, I was totally alone in an edit room, and somebody pressed play, and they came back after the end of episode 4 and pressed play again. But when it came to this, it was, and John Williams' music creeps in, and I was sitting there, and I was just, when we say goodbye to each other, I was just like sitting alone, crying my eyes out. I really was. And before they came in the room, I was like wiping myself out. Oh my goodness. I just found it so beautiful. And the fact that the May the Force be with you doesn't come till then, it's so beautiful. He's finally got to the point where it's alive in him again, and I think that was part of the point of the series, wasn't it, to bring him back to that point. So I love it, and I love doing it with you, that scene. It was so lovely to play, so yeah, it was great.
And Deborah, it really was this lovely gift you gave us and worked on of getting to see Obi-Wan in that time period and how he goes from herminating away to coming back to help save the galaxy. What has it meant to you to do this project, and now it's wrapped, and how has it affected you since then?
It was quite a journey. It was 3 years for me, so it's been a long time with these characters, but it was an honor, and just getting to continue with George's legacy with these incredible characters, it's kind of a director's dream.
I think we can all agree that Deborah just absolutely nailed it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, yes, absolutely, and beautifully. And Ewan, this is brought such another chapter to your experience as the character. What did it mean to come back to you? You told this whole story now, people have seen it, and it feels so special.
It was so special to do it. I don't know the time that passed between playing him before and now. It just was the right time to come back to do it again for me. I don't know, that there's something in my heart that's opened up in terms of the acceptance of it, of the whole thing in my life. You know, the whole, the Star Wars part of my life is back, and it feels really good. I have to say, it feels really good, and. You know, hopefully someone might think we should do some more.
I think everyone in this room is on board with that idea. It sure sounded like. Well, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for being at Celebration and sharing such incredible memories and stories with us. And you know, as a fan myself, the series was just so lovely. And thank you all for coming, but please give all of our panelists another warm round of applause.